A king, a warrior, and a lover all walk into a bar. Yeah, that's like the story of Tokyo Revengers. That should be the title. So I've been reading Tokyo Revengers for a while, and it was a manga that I saw multiple times being recommended on social media. And it got me really interested to know what this story has to do and what makes it so special and why do people keep recommending it with no hesitation. To my surprise, I only saw good things about it, and it reminded me a lot of all these emotional tanks that you see in shonen anime. More notably, One Piece, Naruto, and I'm just gonna put Hunter x Hunter in there just for the sake of it. Tokyo Revengers is a story written by Ken Wakui and has been in the Weekly Shonen Jump since 2017. The story takes place in urban Japan after an era of delinquency, one where high schoolers and grown-ups become part of gang-related activities that lead to the death of the main character's loved one. As it turned out, he had not talked to her in many years after leaving high school and feels deep regret and falls into sorrow. While at the train station, he suddenly gets pushed into the rails as the train approaches. He expected a flashback of his life and all of his happy moments, but actually wakes up to find the face of his precious beloved. Takemichi then wakes up to his old self during his high school days, remembering that the Tokyo Manji gang was responsible for Hinata's death in the present, his loved one. He rushes to her house to find her safe and sound, from where Takemichi seeks to change the event of time and save Hinata from such fate. Look, I'm not going to spoil it for you, so go watch and read it. So let's jump to the reason for this video, the themes that I find resonating within Tokyo Manji Revengers written by Ken Wakui. The display of values and importance of them in the story is one that struck me very quickly. I found myself stuck in the highs and lows of this manga very quickly, and I got myself attached to the characters and their motivations. Hinata, for example, is a character that is physically weak. She cannot fend off on her own against gang members and the dangers of urban Tokyo, but her personality shows that she recognizes her abilities to persuade our main character towards the right path, making sure that he is a good boyfriend and doesn't hurt himself beyond what he is capable of handling. Whenever she is around, Takemichi finds himself completely helpless to say no to her genuine love for him and often finds himself crying in front of her out of joy. I also really like how Takemichi's love interest is literally the centerpiece of the entire story. Okay, look, don't get it twisted, I find that she is still a simple character, but okay, yeah, that's kind of corny. Let's just say her role actually fits well within Tokyo Revengers. The twists and turns revolving around Takemichi's back and forth in time make her the centerpiece of this story to begin with. In my opinion, in Tokyo Revengers, she is the best depiction of a mature partner. She isn't afraid to let the main character know of her worries and troubles, but she also trusts him in his own struggles to make a name for himself within Toman. She's vulnerable and intimidating in her own way, the exact opposite of Takemichi in the beginning of the story when he learned of her passing. Look, let's talk about the warrior for a little bit. This is a battle shonen, right? One in which conflict usually determines who will take hold of power by respect and admiration through violence. If you're watching this video, like, you must know a little bit about anime, so the typical battle shonen that everyone in the anime community should think about at this point is, yeah, this one. In every arc that Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, or Beerus find themselves within, they actually beat the hell out of the main antagonist until, yeah, they just beat him. Now, what happens when you throw a character void of exceptional physical attributes but with a mental tenacity next to none? This is actually the theme that Takemichi embodies all throughout the story, or at least up until the recent chapter that I've read, the Warrior of the Heart. One who dedicates his fight not often with physical violence but with compassion and reasoning of words. The focus and mastery of the emotional instead of the physical hit me the most in this anime, and I couldn't put my finger on it at first because of my own biases. But upon analyzing this story furthermore, his hardships made the most impact on the story with how little he is in comparison to leaders of Toman, Mobius, Valhalla, and especially the Black Dragons. He is the personification of never giving up on what is right no matter what, and I can confidently say that he is next to some of the greatest hardworking characters out there, who started from nothing to make something of themselves. Even in moments of absolute defeat, he's always ready to bounce back with his goals and ambitions in mind. I truly enjoyed all these moments as they represented the barriers that individuals need to overcome. Each of us has challenges and troubles in our lives that stop us from reaching our true potential. A lot of us place those barriers on ourselves from fear of being judged or even failure. So after reading this story, I felt much more motivated to tackle life's challenges and put aside my own weaknesses. The warrior is well incorporated within this story, and I highly recommend this as a starter anime or wait, am I really? Yo, those are thrills, man, that's crazy. I want to keep expanding on the warrior himself with another character that I think is very important, and that is Hakai. Look, I'm not going to go into too much detail with the story surrounding him, but he is a prime example of a soldier who has failed to become a warrior. But let's first see the difference between a warrior and a soldier. How these two are incorporated within the story is the presence of a king or a leader who has subjects ready to put everything on the line for the tribe or the group specific. The group being Toman, led by Mickey, leads a warrior gang with a military structure, and the Black Dragons, led by Taiju, actually have a private military group. More often than not, soldiers are a subcategory of what warriors are. So to become a warrior, a certain level of freedom from military practices is necessary. And within the ascended realm of warriorship, you will find the most basic energy form and the most basic building blocks of human psychology and of all human civilization. But what happens to a person who achieves this state of liberation for all the wrong reasons? Then this is the premise of Taiju, Hakai's brother, who actually lies within his own insecurities and unresolved issues regarding his mother. His inability to open up with someone and his abnormal physical strength led him to become a menace to society. This type of character often builds his cruelty towards women who have been denied access to the warrior archetype for many years. The one character that actually comes to mind is Yasuha, who protected her brother Akai with all her might on many occasions from Taiju's wrath. Takemichi is a warrior at his core, minus the physical prowess. This force allows him to energize, motivate, and create bonds. He filled his being by taking the right to be alive and fired up his willingness to defend the ones he loved. By facing the truth, he's facing and acting out of his own will, and he was capable of taking responsibility for his own life and created a shield within Toman filled with others like him. He claimed authority of his own being and over others when Miki assigned him as captain. Remind you, the world of Tokyo Revengers is filled with monsters who will not hesitate to crush you just to see how squishy you are. Takemichi fights to save his loved one. Mitsuya seeks to become the best version of the archetypal big brother, and Baji wants to save Miki from the most dangerous threat to Toman. Look at it this way, in the first half of the conflict versus the Black Dragons, Hakai is weak-minded and shy to express himself, so why does he not face up in a better manner than these three characters? This can be explained by what we consider to be the truth. Things that we actually don't know will work, but we hope so with all our hearts. Within his own mind, he really thought that killing his brother was the only way to solve this problem. He wants to be a hero, even if it's the wrong kind. And we can see how that leads to his future self, who is out of shape, lazy, and impulsive. A child in a man's body who grew to eat his regret of killing his brother and saddening his sister. That version of himself never was striving for something bigger and better than himself, but was acting out of fear and resentment. In his attempt to murder his own brother, he showed no sign of hesitation or doubt until our main character made his entrance. Him and his sister lived a life under tyrannism and couldn't find a way out. But even with all this terror, he still grew out to become the hero he loves in himself, and loved by the ones who encourage him. By setting out clear boundaries, mastering his thoughts, and controlling his own body, not only as a soldier devout of his own will, but a warrior who fights for what is right. And so far, I feel it is only the beginning of his development. He's ready to tap into this potential and liberating himself from Taiju's claws. And instead of shaming him for all his wrongdoings, he actually expresses what his heart had held for so long to his brother, and lets him know that even with all the wrongdoing that he has done, there's still room for him to grow. This is actually a combination of many things we've seen so far, and it was well built up. The vulnerability of the warrior of the heart that Takemichi is, a brotherly vibe that's similar to that of Mitsuya, and a savior mentality just like Baji's. Yo, my brain is so fried. Broken Ronin, Asura, how do you guys do this all the time? So I'm gonna stop boring you and I'm gonna start talking about the king. And bro, you know who it is. Within Toman, the lesser centerpiece that organizes, distributes roles and tasks, and pretty much rules with all his strength. The place from which the king can oversee his kingdom. Outside of his kingdom lies everything that is against it. The first task of the king is to know where his kingdom begins and where it ends, whether it be the Soul Society under Yamamoto or the Lee Village under Minato. The kingdom is always within the boundaries of his realm, from which he can actually establish the right order, which he defined as the divine order and principle of good society. He does this by making laws and engraving them within his most loyal subject to pass on the word unto his people. That king would be Miki, the Invincible. The most impressive thing that I find within Miki and the king archetype is that he embodies the same principle as his own being. He's not the most charismatic person, but he brings out about fear and admiration in his presence, something that we've seen from the very beginning of the series introduction. Toman is not only a family that is led by warriorship, but by the fellowship and the rulership of the king. This rulership cannot be broken even in the face of absolute brutes and monsters like Taiju, who alone had a private military force at his feet. And even in the face of that monster, Mickey still has a demeanor that brings about peace, as others know that the King of Toman is not to be messed with. This is the downstream of his hierarchical system. Mickey by nature is a very calm boy with a cool-like attitude, and you can see that in all of his surroundings. This hierarchical system actually allows him to pick and choose who is worthy of his time and energy, his patience and worries. The first character that comes to mind whose behavior resembles in many ways that of the king is Mitsuya. Mitsuya is responsible for procuring each member of Toman their own uniform, that same uniform that allows them to be distinguished amongst all other groups. That uniform brings pride to their members, as uniforms symbolize the unity of the group for better or for worse. With the uniform, they take on challenges with confidence, the drip effect. With no doubt, Mitsuya is actually a compelling force within Tokyo Revengers. By the way Tokyo Revengers is going right now, I'm really intrigued. I'm gonna keep on reading the manga and we'll see how it goes. Till then, stay blessed, drink water, GT out.